Hello and welcome back to the Elevate Your Running podcast. This is Coach Sarah, and I'm here for episode 195. And this episode is going to be really fun. It's going to be really cool. Fun fact, I've recorded this episode 3 times and have ditched the episode each time. So I think this is going to be it. I reworked what I wanted to talk about. I actually reworked the entire thing, the entire concept for this week, because I knew I wanted it to be 2 parts. One part kind of addressing where I'm at in my training, as it is Chicago Marathon week, and Chicago Marathon is only a few days away, which is really exciting. But I also wanted to address the marathon and a topic around the marathon. And today was Twin Cities race day, as well as Wine Glass marathon, half marathon. And I had athletes running in both cities and absolutely crushing their marathons on warm days. Both days were warm. Twin Cities was definitely warmer than Wine Glass, but Wine Glass got up there in the second half. And it's just incredible to see these athletes work so hard all season and then to go out and absolutely crush the distance. So Michaela, who's in our group Denver training program, second marathon, absolutely crushed Twin Cities. Very hot day, 13-minute PR. She got her first BQ. We all love Michaela. She worked so hard. And I just had to LOL when I saw the video that her teammate Amy sent me before sending it to the team of Michaela just not having it on the uphill at mile 23, 24. And yet she still did it. And I'm so proud of her and all her growth this year. And some of you may remember Carter, who was part of the Indianapolis build. She was the athlete who passed me around mile 20 at Indianapolis and went on to run this monster PR. She ran a 17-minute PR at Indy to run a 3:03. And today she has successfully run her sub-3 marathon. She ran a 2:56, and it was everything down to the actual second average that we talked about that I thought, she could run. And her build was very, very similar this season to mine. She is an incredible athlete. She's an incredible human. And she's had some really exciting things this year, including, but not exclusive, to wrapping up law school and then taking the bar exam. And the bar exam was in July. And about a month or so before the bar exam, and she gave me full warning. She's like, running is going to take a backseat to this exam. I am, going to be all in on studying and, really want to put my best foot forward with this exam. And that's fair. Absolutely fair. So she had a pretty short build going into Wine Glass and she absolutely smashed it. And I'm so proud of her and so proud that she got her first sub-3 out of many. She's very young and in a good way. And she's had a lot of consistent running since the pandemic, a lot of high mileage cycles. She's continuing to get faster, and it's really, really fun to see. And there are some really big things on the horizon for her if it's something that she really wants to work towards. And it had, me smile a little bit because I was thinking about my build and everything that's been going on in my training. And here we are, just a few days out before Chicago. And this build, if you could call it that, because I can't necessarily say it's been a build, in a sense of I wasn't really thinking of it like it was a build. I was literally taking each and every day as that day. And this build has been 9 weeks. It'll be 9 weeks on race day. And very, very similar to Carter's build of ramping up pretty quickly with the long run, managing the speed and not overdoing the speed, and really working on a lot of threshold, half, and marathon tempos, and really just leaning into all of the aerobic foundation and fitness that's been built over the last several years. So here we are. We're a few days out from Chicago, and my team knows what I'm doing if they read the email I sent them. But what's also really funny is some people have texted me and I'm like, oh, you haven't read the email that I sent. But, at this point, I have decided to run the Chicago Marathon. That may or may not be a surprise to people. I don't actually know. But I am really excited about it. And I've been reflecting a lot on this cycle because this has been the most interesting, non non I don't know, it's just been one of the most unpredictable training cycles I really could have ever imagined. And um, getting injured at the beginning of summer and all the things that I've been working through, when I did get injured, I had it was about 12 weeks out. And I told myself, like, okay, you need about 10 weeks to get fit. You know that from past cycles. This is not over. But at the same time, I really couldn't see a way through. And I wonder how many of us have been there in life, in training and in running. Like, we're in a situation where we can't actually see ourselves getting to that place that we want to be. We don't know how to get there. We don't know if we can get there. And that's where I was. And something that I've talked about in an Instagram story a few months ago is how I don't know if I'm racing. And that's been true up until about a week ago. And I need to take it every single day for what it is and show up the way that I need to show up that day. So if that means I'm not running, I'm not running. If that means I need to spend an afternoon hiking with my dog because that's what I need to do, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I ended up doing. Lo and behold, I still really didn't know if I was running this race until last week when I ran a 15K marathon tempo, which was a pretty fast acceleration in training. Nell picked up my training in September, and we did some really fast acceleration, or what I thought was pretty fast. But I ran a 15K marathon tempo, and I thought, hey, if you can get through this tempo, which is 9.3 miles, if you can get through this tempo and your foot feels good, mentally you feel good, you feel like you have a little bit more left in the tank, then I think you got to go for it at Chicago. You got to bet on yourself and do this, because this could actually be the cycle that things align the way that you wanted them to align for the last few cycles, and it just hasn't. So I went through that workout, felt great. It was a little bit on the warmer side. I ran loops at Wash Park, which was a very nice way to kind of simulate the Chicago course. And Wash Park is in Denver, for those that don't know. And it went really well. I had a lot left in the tank. I felt really strong. I felt really comfortable. I averaged a pace that I was very happy with. It was a pace that I originally thought would be my outcome for Chicago before really any of this started. And here we are on the other side of it. Not totally. I still have to run the race, but I'm just a few days out, and I'm what feels to be very close to the other side of it. And I think it's really interesting when you're at the beginning of something that seems very scary. It feels unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't really control or do anything other than surrender and just be every single day. You find a way through. And sometimes you don't know that you're through it until you are. And that's what I've kind of felt over the last week. So I'm very excited about this race. I am so happy to be able to do this. I'm so grateful to be able to do this. I feel fit. I feel ready. Um, I have an excitement that I haven't had in 26.2 in a long time. And I think a lot of that has to do with the shorter build and not, putting myself through too many weeks of really hard weeks. We'll see how that works. It worked really well for Carter. And I know not every runner is the same. Not two runners are the same, but I know when things get tough, and I know when it got tough for her today, I'll be thinking of her, and I'll be thinking of how much harder situations I've been through that have been much harder this year, and I can absolutely do it. And that's going to be my go-to when things get tough on the course. And oh gosh, I really hope it's not at mile 10 or 13, which is a slight legitimate concern. But here we are. I want to say one last thing, or two last things, about my build before I go into this week's episode. this has definitely been the shortest marathon build that I've ever done. It's probably going to be the shortest marathon build I ever do if I have another marathon build. And I was reflecting on this in yoga today, um, after class when I was just staying in the room, which is something I've been doing in this cycle, is taking yoga for a few different reasons and really leaning into the end of the class and the savasana. Oh my gosh, I can't even say that word. There are some words you shouldn't say on a podcast. Everyone has their list of words. That is mine. Jake, the editor, if you're listening to this, you can leave this in if you want. I hope you got a good laugh. And savasana is the correct way to pronounce that word. And it's basically when you're laying on your yoga mat at the end of class and you're just laying there, and you can have your palms up to receive or your palms down to ground, and you're laying there with your eyes closed. And I've really taken that time. In the past, I've always, jumped up right out of class, or got out of there and rushed out of there to do, 87 other things that I have to do that day. And over the last few months, I've chosen to lay there and to really be there for another 5 or 10 minutes, if there wasn't another class coming in. And so today I was thinking about how I think the last few months have probably been arguably the hardest few months that I've gone through in a while, but maybe some of the biggest moments of growth. And I feel like I've had some really strong lessons that I've learned that I'm really grateful for. And it's something that I wouldn't wish away. I think anytime anyone goes through an injury, or you kind of go through a season of whatever in life, when you find the growth through the lessons on the other side, and I'm not through it yet, but I am in a much better place. You kind of wish you could learn that in a way that didn't, maybe provide the reason to go through it in the first place. But sometimes that's what happens, especially in running. So I'm really, really grateful for the last few months. This cycle is going to hands down be my favorite cycle forever. And I've had some really great marathon cycles. I've trained with Jenna last year, which was so much fun. And last year was like the best year of my life. It was so great. And it was so fun. It was so much fun. And, I've run Chicago before, which is my favorite course. And I've run 2 Bostons, one being my first Boston in the pandemic, which was amazing in its own way. And then being able to share that experience with 8 other Elevate athletes in 2023, going through my very first marathon training cycle. They all have a special place in my heart. And this one is going to be the one that I think about when I think about racing a marathon, and when I think about my time training for marathons. I know, because it has been the cycle where I've learned the most, I've grown the most, the cycle where I've been at rock bottom and had to figure out a way to climb to the top, to figure out, can I do this? Am I strong enough to do this? Do I have enough fitness? Do I have enough mental capacity to run a marathon? And the answer is yes. So we're going for it. We are going for it. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Some of my favorite runners are going to be there. We have Connor Mance going after the American record. I am so pumped for that. And I would ideally love to run, something very similar but very different to Connor. I'm just going to leave it at that. Clayton Young, also his training partner, but also one of my favorite endurance athletes and endurance runners, will be on the lead car, which is so amazing. I was joking with some Elevate team members that I saw today. I was like, well, I'm not going to be running with Connor, obviously, 4:45 pace, so I'm not going to be able to see Clayton, but maybe I'll look down the street and they'll be in the second half of the race running back. I'll be running north, they'll be running south. So it'll be really great to have those vibes in Chicago. And then of course, all the Elevate athletes. I have 8 team members, athletes that I'm coaching, who are racing the 5K and the marathon. And I get to be there with friends. And so many people have reached out about meetup spots after the race and what we're doing after the race. So I'm really excited for this. And it's going to be, no matter what happens on race day, it's going to be a great day, a great weekend. So with that, I want to talk about 3 ways that you can master your marathon. Now, this is for an athlete who has already run a marathon or 2 or 10, and you're like, I haven't been able to break through the marathon. Something on the course always happens, whether mentally, physically, I break down. I can't get this dialed in. Help me, help me, help me. Okay, so these are going to be 3 things that I'm actually using on race day to help me when things get hard, because I know they will. They do for everyone. It's just going to be a matter if it happens at mile 10, I hope not. Mile 13, I also hope not. Mile 16, also, still got 10 to go, which seems like a long way. Or mile 20 or 22, which is like, if it's going to get hard, let's hope it's 4 miles to go. So the first thing that I want you to take into your next marathon race is thinking about the internal versus external. So, what does that mean? Athletes that I've coached might know what this means. This is mindset. This is going inward at the start of the race, going inward with your thoughts, your emotions, really dialing back pace, really focusing on keeping it easy, keeping it joggy, getting through the water stations, running the tangents early, making sure you're not overrunning, and keeping it more internal. And that's going to help a lot with your mindset, because you're probably going to be excited. You are definitely carved up. Your glycogen stores are maxed out. You are around all of those same types of people, which, the energy is just 100, right? The vibe is just 100. And you really got to go inside to make sure you don't overshoot, specifically the first 10K. You don't want to overrun those first miles, even when you're energized, you're awake, that caffeine gel might already be hitting, and it's still early in the race. So if you don't feel good, one, you could warm up and feel better later on, but two, like, most people feel great at the start of the marathon. So, like, anytime an athlete goes out too fast and they're like, but Coach Sarah, I felt so good. Like, yes, but like 95% of runners feel good at the start. Like, you're tapered, your glycogen stores are maxed out. The excitement is everywhere for the Chicago Marathon. They're going to be playing the Chicago Bulls theme song, which is like, just brings me back to my childhood and loving the Chicago Bulls and the Michael Jordan era and 23, and just like, there's just so many good vibes. Keep it in. Hold on to that energy. Hold on to it. Stay focused. Stay dialed. Even if that means running slower, even if that means running a pace that feels a little bit uncomfortable because it is slower, I'm going to be there on Sunday. I know how I'm starting out the race. I already know how that pace is going to feel. It hasn't felt comfortable at elevation. Like, it's felt slow. It's felt very slow, and it's been a really hard pace for me to find. It's still going to be the pace that I go out at for the first 5K, 10K. And I'm going to have to be super dialed in on not overrunning, because I want to have a lot of room left in the second half to see what I can do. So keeping it inward is going to be massive. You could think about also focusing on your breath, right? That helps too. Focusing inward, mindset, start talking yourself up, positive thoughts, positive mantras, telling yourself you can, but that this is the long game. It's time to really hold back so you can fly later on in the race. Now, in the second half of the race, you want to flip that. You might need to go external. What does that mean? External means using the people around you to get the most out of you. So when things get tough, which could be, hopefully it's not 13 or 16, it could be 18, 20, 22, 24. Two things. One is that most times that hard mile is just that mile. So don't freak out. I mean, if you freak out a little bit, that's normal, but like understand that like sometimes it's a mile or two and then you flip right back into it. So telling yourself it's okay, this is going to happen, this is part of the process. It's like normalizing it and being like, oh yeah, this is what's supposed to happen. I'm good. If this didn't happen, I would be surprised. Like normalizing it is huge. But then going external, using the people around you. So picking off someone that is stronger than you is going to be massive. Picking off, thinking, or picking off someone and meaning like pick out someone in the crowd that you're running with that looks like they are running strong and say, I'm running with them. They don't know that you're running with them, but you know you're running with them. So you want to hold the gap between you and that person or get a little bit closer to them. Oftentimes in races, if you can tell someone, hey, I'm running with you, or I'm really struggling right now, but I want to run with you, you can work together to then power through. It's very, very similar to when I pair up athletes in group coaching and in group workouts. Like, I really want athletes to really pull the energy off of each other because you'll get a lot more out of it, or you can flow through that really tough spot in the race. Um, what else? Spectators. Spectators are huge, especially if you're at a major marathon or a bigger marathon like CIM or Boston. If you write your name on your bib, you will have the crowd yelling at you. Now, at Boston 21, when I ran, which was the pandemic year, we ran in the fall. It was a very warm day. I had a shoe malfunction because I wore a brand new pair of shoes, race shoes, on race day. Highly don't recommend that. And it didn't work out for me. I had a really bad issue with my right foot, which is also, I guess, the foot in question for this race. And I just had a really tough day, and it was a very warm day. It was 66 degrees at the start. It ended up being over 75 degrees when I finished. And I remember, because your name's on your bib at Boston, you can't really get away from that. And I remember people just yelling my name in the last 10K, and I was so over it. I was over it. I didn't train well for this race. I was hot. My foot hurt. I had to stop to relace my shoes a few times because my foot was expanding in the shoe and it was hitting the certain part in the alpha fly. For anyone who has high arches, this is probably a problem for you. And it just wasn't it. It wasn't it. It hurt so bad. And I was over it. I was overhearing my name. But in most cases, when you have that external validation, it could be family, friends, it could be strangers yelling your name, you can pull their energy into getting through the mile and getting through it and holding effort, right? While we're doing this, it's really easy to back off, and it's actually a very normal process in the last 10K of a race. But holding effort as best as you can and really pulling off of that crowd is going to be major. So internal versus external. You can also apply this to training. Quick tip. Internal being focusing on your breath and focusing on what you can control and not going out too fast. External in a training run is focusing on the trees, the clouds, the sky, the wind, the smells in the air. You may not want to do that on race day. The smells in the air just get worse the faster you are. And that is not a stereotype. Maybe it is. It's like the faster you get, I don't know what it is. It's like there's more. I am so sorry. There's just like more men, and like it's a fact. It is what it is. And I'm so sorry if that offends anyone, but that has been my experience. But the external side, you can focus on all these other things to get you through. Another point for the external piece in a race that I really love, and it's something I used in that Nell used with me pacing Boulder Boulder, and then what I used in pacing Marilee for her 10K phenomenal race at Boulderthon last week, was using points on the course to get you through that moment in time. And that is a game changer. You can micro it down to like 10 steps ahead of you if you have to. So I was using blocks, like street blocks, signage, like let's get to this street, let's get to this running store, let's get to this grocery store. Let's focus on holding pace and effort through the yield sign or the stop sign or whatever I could pull out on the road to help her get through that last mile, which was really tough, I think, for her. But she rocked it like the awesome rock star she is. She crushed that race. We ran a lot faster than I thought we were going to run. But she did it, and I was so happy. So using the external to help you get through is going to help you get through those tough moments. So think about what that could be for you. It could be the crowd. It could be using someone on the course to help you. It could be using points on the course, especially if you're running through like a major city, getting through a building, getting through the next skyscraper, getting through the next city, something like that can be very, very, very beneficial. The next pillar is running form. Focus on your running form. That is going to be a way to how to master the marathon, because if you're falling apart in the last 10K of the race, if you can go in, focus in on your running forms, this is a bit more of that internal focus with an external reward, because if you can get into a groove with your running form, so thinking about your running form, thinking about driving your arms, the faster your arms pump, the faster your feet will run, which means a higher cadence, which means you are running faster, the stronger you'll be. If you focus on kicking your foot up to your glute, you will instantly drop seconds. I have tried this in workouts before where I was like, ooh, I feel a little flat today. I feel a little flat. And then focusing on really driving my foot up as close to my glute as possible, you instantly get faster. So really focusing in on the running form is going to help you, because in the last 10K or in the last part of the race, that's where your race falls apart typically for most runners. So if you can master that with your running form and really think about running smoother and running faster through your running form, it's going to help you get through that section on the course, because you don't have to really exert more effort. I'm not asking you to run faster. I'm asking you to run more efficiently. And that's two different things. Efficient running will produce a faster athlete, but you don't have to do anything other than focus on running the way that you want to run. So something I've noticed on Boulderthon weekend, people don't use their arms when they run. So take note of that. Are you a runner who doesn't pump their arms when you're running? That is a huge area of improvement. Videotape yourself running, easy and then speed. Does your foot kick up back against your glute, or are you a Sarah shuffler like I am? A lot of my teammates will call me, oh, it's a Sarah shuffle. It's like you're running X number pace, but you look like you're shuffling. If you actually kick your foot back to your glute, how much faster are you going to run giving the same effort? No extra effort there. And then the other part that another cue I give my athletes in person on Wednesday nights, and this was something I practiced in my last marathon tempo, is relaxing the shoulders for some people, which I fall in that category. Relax your shoulders down. Something I also notice is when I get tense, I tighten up my jaw, and my jaw and my mouth tighten up. And I kind of knew this from some race photos, but then I actually could feel it happening in my last few really long marathon tempos. And I think it wasn't for the pace. I think it was just whatever I was thinking about, probably the songs I was listening to or whatever was going on in my mind. So I really focused on relaxing my jaw, relaxing my shoulders, and I was able to run much smoother, much faster, same effort. So that's going to be huge. Try it out. Try it out in training. Try it out in your next marathon. Maybe you have New York coming up. Maybe you have CIM, Houston. maybe a Phoenix, maybe a Philly, Marine Corps, Indy. I'm trying to think of all the races. Um, it's going to help a lot. And then lastly is the decision point. This is the part in the race where you make the decision. Are you going for it, or are you going to slow down? Are you going to compromise with yourself? Are you going to give yourself a mile and then kick things back up? Or are you going to just let things slow down? Are you going to slow down? Are you going to stop giving effort? It is the easier decision, right? To stop, get water. It is the easier decision to slow down for sure. Something I learned through Nell in my last marathon build was in the last 10K, she said, it's going to get hard, but if you can hold or push the same effort, you might actually run faster, and it could feel the same as if you were jogging it. Because we all know what happens when you're running about 30 to 45 seconds slower than goal marathon pace. It's not fun. It's not fun. It is really terrible. It is a terrible, terrible feeling. And running fast is also a very terrible feeling. So which one do you want to do, right? Which one do you want to happen? It's easy to slow down. It's happened to me in most marathons. So I'm not. I mean, it happens to most people, right? But it's finding that decision point on the course where, okay, maybe you give yourself a mile and you're like, okay, this isn't feeling any better. You give yourself another mile, and it's like, okay, this isn't getting any better. So now this is like the decision point of if this, then. So if this happens, if it feels tough, I will then do X. And having that programmed, ready to go before your race. So if it feels tough, I will then give myself a mile to get through it, give myself 2 miles to get through it, and evaluate. If this happens, I will then take it mile by mile. I will then take it quarter mile by quarter mile, which some people have done in a marathon. And it works. It moves the race through a little bit faster than taking it mile by mile. If this happens, I will grab an extra gel at the gel station. If this happens, I will pull from the spectators. If this happens, I will focus on my running form. I will relax. Shoulders down, jaw unclenched, release the jaw, which is what I need to do. If this happens, I will go through and recite my mantras. So they're all positive things, right? They're not, if this happens, I slow down. If this happens, I stop. No. That could happen, and that very well could happen. But finding that decision point on the course and then flipping the script and making it into a positive of, this is what I will do to feel better, and kind of tricking your mind. Some people take a gel at mile 25 only for the fact that it helps them in their mind tell themselves, I just put fuel in my body. I can run faster. Some people will choose to take electrolytes or take a piece of fruit. Does that really help them for the last mile? Maybe, maybe not. But if you tell yourself it does, your mind is your greatest asset. So whatever your mind's telling you in the last mile or 10K is going to be what happens. It's going to be what you do. So if you already know that at some point during the race, it's going to get hard, and you make that decision point of, when this happens, I know this is what I go to, and everyone's going to be different on what that is, and maybe have a few different options ready to go based on where you're at on the course and what's going on. So I know for me, like, my decision point of when things get tough at Chicago in a few days, I've decided that I'm already going to tell myself, but you've been through so much worse. You've been through so much like harder things over the last few months that you can do this. So it's going to be kind of a mantra situation of reminding myself I've been through harder things, and I can absolutely do this for X number of minutes. And that's kind of my pro tip for anyone listening. And Elevate athletes know this. Something I talk about most often in race strategy calls when we talk about the last 5K or the last mile, maybe the last 10K, is I break it down into minutes. And for whatever reason, minutes seem easier than miles when you're kind of at that breaking point. And I don't know if it's the fatigue that's coming from mile, or kilometer, but the minutes can break it down. And then every time your watch clicks over, you can reset the minute and say, instead of 35 minutes, I have 28 minutes left. What can I do in 28 minutes? To me, that seems easier than what can I do in 4 miles. 4 miles seems so long. Oh, I don't want to push for 4 miles. But 28 minutes, I don't know. I've run 3-hour long runs. That just seems like it seems easier. And maybe it's the way our brains work. And some people listening, I'd actually love to hear from you. If you feel like minutes doesn't work over miles, you'd rather have miles. Minutes is great. And then breaking down each mile by minute. Like, so if your watch is on the lap screen, if you're running, let's say you have 28 minutes left and you look down and you're already 3 minutes into that next segment, congratulations, you're already at 25 minutes. Now you have 25 minutes. What can you do in 25 minutes? Get to the next time your watch clicks over, buzzes at you, and that's the next time you can like reset the clock. It's kind of a cool place to be. I'd love to hear your thoughts on if minutes work better for you than breaking down the last few miles of a race. But these, I think, are going to be 3 huge factors in how you show up to race your next marathon a little bit better, a little bit stronger, mastering the distance. This is the up level to the marathon. The marathon is so tricky. It takes about 10 years to master the marathon, or 10 marathons. Mastering the training is tricky. Mastering the 20-mile run, mastering the recovery, mastering the taper. Ooh, all tricky. And then to go and actually run 26.2 miles, very tricky, because a gajillion things could come up, and they usually do. I mean, I see it as a coach every single week. The wildest things happen to people. It is so sad. When I'm like, oh my God, you had stomach problems. Oh my God, you slipped and fell. Oh my God, you broke your arm. That has actually happened. Oh my God, your shoe malfunctioned on course. Like, there's so many things that can happen. It is wild. Oh my God, you forgot all your gels. That has also happened. All of these things have actually happened. And yet you go out there and you continue to show up and you continue to work your marathon pace down. And maybe you're at a point where you're working with the same coach, you're not working with a coach, you're changing up the training, you're creating chaos in the training, but yet you're still finding that things are not clicking on the course, on the actual course when things get tough, or when you're just running in general. These are going to be the 3 things that I think can up-level you in a new way for you to master your next 26.2, whether you're going after a BQ like Michaela got today, or, on Sunday when you're listening to this. Yeah, Michaela. Or if you get that sub 3 like Carter got today. I'm so proud of her. Go, Carter, go. If you're going after a personal best, if you're going after I don't care what the outcome is, I really just want to know that when I crossed the finish line, I gave it my absolute best. And slowing down or going out too fast, slowing down at the end, going out too fast at the start, having poor running form and not really caring about it, are all things that we kind of leave on the table. We kind of leave it out there. We leave minutes on the table when we don't focus on those things. So these are 3 things that can totally up-level you as you go into your next marathon. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening this week. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your support over these last few months that has been very touching to me. I know some of you have mentioned I've been, you can tell that I've been pretty emotional in this build, um, and I have. I'm an emotional person. I feel things very deeply, um, and yet I think I can also be very neutral when it comes to a lot of things, and when it comes to training and life and how things happen. Um, but every now and again, something happens that really hits you hard, and we get to show up that way as humans. And I really appreciate everyone for listening, for your support, your love through this training cycle, for your encouraging words, always asking how the running's going, how the training's going, how my foot's going, how my foot's feeling. And yeah, I really appreciate all of it. It's been so wonderful. I didn't really think that that support would be there, and it's just been really wonderful. So thank you for that. And I want to leave you with this quote from one of my favorite people, Clayton Young, who placed eighth in Tokyo Worlds. Uh, if you are someone who is showing up to training every training cycle and you're still waiting for that day to happen, if you're someone who's just starting this running game and you really don't know what you're getting yourself into, but you kind of see things on social, you kind of see things on Strava, you kind of see things in your running community. So you kind of know um, some things about it. This is one of my favorite quotes right now, and it's going to be something that I can continue to tell myself after Chicago, whether it goes the way I want it to or not, is consistent competence equals eventual excellence. And I think that is something that we can keep in mind, not just for running, but in life. If we can continue to show up and show up on days when we don't want to, on hard days, on good days, and we can continue to show up in each training cycle and put our best foot forward, and we stack those bricks, we will have eventual excellence. And that's going to look different for everyone, for everyone's goals, but we'll eventually get there. And that's really exciting. I hope it's motivating. I hope it's inspiring. I hope it's enough momentum to keep you going in the hard cycles. And I know for me that the consistency has been what has given me the gift of these last few months, because everything I've done over the last few months, I would not have been able to do if I didn't have the last 6 years of training and high mileage and big workouts and all the things under my training belt. It just simply wouldn't have been realistic. I probably would have been injured again, or wouldn't be in a place where I feel fit enough to be able to go after a personal best at Chicago. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're going through training, is that sometimes all these training cycles are meant for a specific reason that we don't actually know yet until we get there. And sometimes we don't know it until we're on the other side. So thanks so much for listening this week. I love you all so much. You can track me, you can cheer me on, you can do all the things. I'll be pretty offline until the race. And then we're celebrating no matter what happens on race day. We're celebrating in Chicago. If you're in Chicago, feel free to DM me and I'll send you our location on where we're at. And I hope you have a great week. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you again next week.